So today I'm going to be giving you guys a book review, and we are going to be talking about Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare. Oh my god. First of all, can we talk about how massive this book is? Like, when are they going to switch to the really thin Sarah J. Maas Bible pages? These are still too fat. So anyways, if you don't know what this is the third book in the Dark Artifices series, which is kind of like the third series in the Shadowhunter Chronicles. But not really chronologically, but kind of. It's confusing. There's a lot of them. This one follows our wonderful friends, Emma and Julian, and all the Blackthorn children. And it takes place a couple years after City of Heavenly Fire, which is the finale of the Mortal Instruments series. I know it's a lot to process. It's fine. If you're trying to decide if you should read this series, I would recommend it. I think it's definitely worth it. It's a really cool expansion on the world. You get to see a lot more of Los Angeles, and you get to see some old characters come back, and it's a trip. It's a time. A lot of people, when this series started, wondered if they could read this series without reading the previous books in this world. Can you? Sure, you can. I don't know why you would, because you would really lose a lot of context. A lot of the characters in this series were actually introduced in City of Heavenly Fire. And more than that, there are characters and plot lines and things that are introduced in other series, other books, novellas, all kinds of things that I would recommend you read all of the other books before you get to this series, just so you kind of like are ready, you know? And this one specifically, since it is a finale, you should probably read the other books in this series before you listen to this. So, if you want to know my thoughts, without any spoilers, just briefly, it was great and terrible, and I liked it and hated it. Overall, this finale was a lot. It's very long. It's very drawn out. The characters are amazing. I thought it was really plot twisty and unexpected, and there were a lot of things about it that were just kind of out there, but it had a lot of nostalgia for me. You get to see a lot of old characters in this. The battles are great. There's a lot of things going on at once. It sets up a lot for the next coming series, which is really cool. And yeah, do I regret it? No, it's great. I really enjoyed it. However, I do have some issues with it, and it's definitely not one of my favorite Sarah J. Maas? We're talking about Cassandra Clare. It's definitely not my favorite Cassandra Clare book, but it's not the worst. I think I gave it like 4 stars on Goodreads, and I stand by that 4-star rating. So anyways, I don't think that actually told you anything. You should read it. It's pretty entertaining. It kept me up until like 1 a.m. last night. It's fine. But if you have read it and you want to talk about it, we're going to do that. So if you haven't read the book, please leave, because I want to talk about this. Okay, I will just say, I put off Queen of Air and Darkness for a while. This came out in December. It is currently the end of May, and it took me a good, 2 weeks to get through the audiobook, and it was a lot. I knew it was going to be a lot going into it, but, it was truly a lot. There were a lot of emotions happening this whole time. And I had some people who really loved it. I also had a couple people who were like, this is 1 star. I hate this book. I can't stand it. And so I was kind of open-minded. I wanted it to be really great, but I also knew that, it wasn't gonna be that great. And so in the end, there were a lot of things I didn't like about it, but there were equally as many things that I loved about it that I think it kind of ended up just being 4 stars because, I enjoyed it so much. And that's why I kind of have a problem with some of my book reviews, because most of the time I'm easily pleased. And as long as I'm entertained in some way or fashion, I can overlook a lot of really bad things. And that's kind of what happened with this book, because it's not good. It's really not. But we're going to talk about all that. I would say, first things first, let's talk about the things that I liked, because that's fun. Number 1, my favorite thing about this book is the nostalgia factor. I knew, we've seen some of the older characters in previous books in this series. Jason Clare I mentioned, they show up a couple times. Magnus and Alec are definitely in the last book. There's just, they're here. They're doing their things. They're just living their life. But in this one, I felt like they were in it. We got POVs from them, and I could not handle it, because, Jace is talking about how much he loves his Parabatai Alec, and, Magnus and Alec were living their best life, and, there's just, a lot happening. And Simon and Izzy, I didn't expect to see Simon and Izzy, and I saw them, and I was freaking out about it. So, number 1, like, the reason I like this book is because they had the characters that were from the last series that I liked so much, which is kind of stupid because that's not what this is about, but I'm just being honest. That's how much I liked it. I will also say I have really grown to love some of the characters in this series, specifically my people, Kieran and Kit. Ugh! I love them so much. They're just so great. Also Emma and Julian, but they kind of like went through some stuff. I really, really love how Kieran's character arc happened in this book, because I think it was over the course of this book really that it kind of shifted. It was working its way out in the second book, but I feel like this one he had to go through the thing in the Scholomance where like he goes into the pool and like he realizes he's a terrible person and he's like, I don't want to be that anymore. I want to be a good person. And like he tries to fix things with everybody, and now he's king, and like he's so great, and like he loves those cat calendars. Like I love Kieran so much. I think he might be my favorite character from this like threesome trio series thing. Trilogy, there's the word. I really appreciated his arc. I like a good character arc, and so if you can pull that off for me, like, I'm happy. I will stand forever. Kit's character is awesome. I mean, I knew that, and like I always forget how much I love him, but him and Ty, like his relationship with Ty is really just like insanely awesome. And like I think she's setting it up so that they're gonna be a couple in the next series, but like don't play with games with my heart, Cassandra Clare. I want them together. And like that whole ending with Kit where he like figures out who he is, we come to find out through him talking to Tessa that he is like this lost fairy heir of some kind, I don't know, descended from, and so he has like some fairy magic powers, but he's also kind of part shadow hunter. He is a Herondale. It's just like there's all this stuff happening, and eventually, because he has this huge fight with Ty, he's like, nah, I don't need to say goodbye to anybody. I'm gonna just go with Tessa and Jem. Bye, I'm peacing out. Like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, that whole, I know we're gonna get payoff in the next series, and I know it's gonna work out. It's gonna be okay. But, like, do you know how long I have to wait for this next book for me to see Kit and Ty talking to each other again? I'm upset. I'm really sad about how they had their weird falling out with Livy's ghost and Ty, and like, it's fine. That's a whole nother thing. We'll come back to that. But I really have grown to love like Kit and Ty and their relationship. Drew was really great in this book. I still am not like obsessed with her as a character, I think, because she's so young and like my brain is like, like you're fine, whatever. She's still really great though, and I think potentially if she's in the next series, like it could grow into this really cool character. I appreciate who she is, but I'm not like obsessed with her like I am with other characters. So I really liked her. Who else? Diana. I'm so happy for Diana. Diana is living her best life. Like, she has told people she's trans and they love her. And she has her boyfriend Gwyn, who is like head of the fairy hunt or whatever. Like, she is just, I love her so much. She's such a great character, and I'm really happy that Cassie gave that diversity to us in this book. Christina is also living her best life with her two lovers. Mark, I forgot. Listen, I love Kieran. I also love Mark, like kind of equally. Maybe I am a part of this weird poly trio thing. I will say the threesome relationship was very different for me. I am very much a one-on-one, like mono relationship person, and I've never understood polyamorous people. Not because I think they're wrong in feeling that way or anything. My brain cannot comprehend what that's like. And I think part of that is that I haven't experienced enough of them to like accept that, but also like, I don't know. I feel very much like that's not for me. And so it was very interesting to read about a polyamorous relationship in this series, because at first you kind of think that she's baiting you, and she's like, nah, she's not actually going to make them polyamorous. She just has this weird thing with love triangles, like whatever, it's fine. But then in this one, they're all together and they're like, no, I want both of you. And they all feel the same way. And like, it gets really messy and weird. I'm just accepting it because like, I do genuinely like the three. I think the three of them work well together. And I think Cassie did such a good job writing that relationship, because it could just be a hot mess, and like it kind of is, but like, I don't know. It works, I guess. So that's fun. Love that. I love Mark and how he's come into his own. Wow. Thinking about all the characters in this book that have grown up, it's great. We're living our best life. Emma and Julian. What a bunch of horny bitches. Oh my goodness gracious. They are literally so dumb. I was really mad at Julian actually for a lot of this book because of that stupid spell. he basically gets put under the spell from Magnus voluntarily, where he's like, hey, if you could just, like, cut off all my emotions. Well, he doesn't wish that. He's like, if you could stop me from loving anybody, loving Emma specifically, that would be great. And Magnus is like, that's cool, but, like, I'm a dead in all of your emotions. There's nothing I can do, really. And so Julian just, like, is emotionless for, like, half the book. Except for when they go into Thule, which is a whole nother thing. Like, I love Julian so much as a character, because he's so mysterious, but he fights for his family, and, like, I think it's also that he's kind of on the demisexual spectrum. It made me a little bit upset when he did that, mainly when Cassie did it, because I don't blame Julian. But it's like, here's the thing. I understand where she's coming from with that spell, and, like, why Julian would want to do it and why it would happen, but as somebody who's on the A spectrum herself, it can get a little bit problematic if you look at it a little closer, because a lot of the stereotypes for ace people or demisexual people is that, like, they don't have any emotions and we're robots, and, like, that's what some people see ace people as. And so to see a character that I know, I've talked to Cassie about this, is demisexual, on the spectrum somewhere, to have him become an emotionless robot in some ways was a little bit concerning to me. I will put that out there. I got over it. It's fine. I know she didn't mean it like that, but it was weird and a little bit off-putting for a while there. But it's fine. It worked itself out. It doesn't matter anyway. So yes, those are the things that I liked, and I'm going to touch on the one thing that probably drove this book up, like, at least 1 star. When I was starting out this book, my roommate had actually already read it, and she was like, okay, it gets really weird, but there's, like, one thing at the end that I think you're really gonna like. And I was like, okay, I don't know what this is, but hopefully I recognize it. And I didn't even have to talk to her about it, because I know. She knows me that well. Last night I was reading, and, like, out of nowhere, Alec is like, hey, do you want to get married? And Magnus was like, what the fuck? Sure, why not? They literally, Alec planned a wedding, a surprise wedding for Magnus on the beach, and everyone we love was there. And I turned on 1,000 Years by Christina Perri, and the entire paragraph, like, section was as long as the song. And I swear, I almost lost it right there. Like, I love them so much. They're so cute. Their wedding was adorable. I just can't handle it. It's just too much, guys. I really can't handle it. Also, Alec is now the consul, which is freaking insane. Like, Alec has come so far as a character, and here's the thing. I want to touch more on the TMI characters, because even though this series doesn't focus on them, like, they are always a part of the story now because of what they did in the past. And it kind of goes to show how much your actions have echoes, and, like, how powerful you can be if you do have a voice. I love them, and I'm so happy that we continue to see them in the series, because, like, they are still, even though they're background characters and they're minor characters in many ways, like, they still have intense character development, and, like, they're still coming into their own and, like, figuring out what they want to do with their lives. And, like, also, I just remembered the last page. It's fine. They're just really great, and they're fun, and, like, obviously, I think some of it is probably a little bit of fan catering. Like, yes, fans would like to see Malik get married, so obviously Cassie had to write that. But, like, I don't know, other authors don't really do that they bring back old characters for that long. Like, Magnus Bane has been a part of our lives for, like, a lifetime now? Not really, but he's been in all the series, and, like, I love, Magnus is, like, the love of my life, so, like, to get to see him be happy, oh my god, I almost lost it. It was just too beautiful. Also, the line where Emma is like, hey, do you want, like, a big tapestry of yourself? And he's like, not really, but, like, you could give it to Magnus. I think he'd really enjoy that. Also, the scene where they're having the big meeting in Los Angeles, and Clary and Jace come out for the first time after being presumed dead, and so everybody's like, oh my god, they're alive. And there's, like, that random girl in the audience who's like, oh my goodness, it is Jace and Clary. Aren't they supposed to be dead? There's that girl who was talking before that who claimed to be Jace's best friend, which is, like, laughable at best. But then Jace comes in and he's like, hey, bestie, like, what the hell? I was attacked. It's just, like, stuff like that. Or, like, the scene where they're all sitting around the campfire before the big battle, and Isabella's like, what? Why has nobody talked about ketchup on s'mores? And everyone's like, this is why you're a bad cook. And she's like, no, I'm not. And Simon's like, I like ketchup on s'mores. And he, like, leans over to Clary and he's like, no, I don't like it. I don't like it. Like, I love him so much. And, like, I was planning on doing, like, a whole Cassandra Clare reread, and I just kind of got lost, and I did not do that. And now I'm kind of wondering if I should, because, like, I love them all so deeply. That's, like, mostly everything for the characters. Here's the thing. It's a really long book, and there's a lot of stuff that happens, and I read so much of it, like, a week ago, and so I don't really remember a lot of it. It was good in many ways. However, I do have my issues. So, now we're just going to proceed to the rant. And I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth, but I believe pretty much every word I'm about to say. There's layers to my dislike for this book. Number one, it's long. Part of my problem, I think, with this series as a whole is that it feels long. Like, I think with her other books, like, they are all long. I know that. But I felt like her other books weren't quite as drawn out as this one. Like, especially this book, but even in, like, the other two, they're just so much all the time, because I feel like she jumps around to so many different characters that it's like, it felt like Infinity War, you know, where it's so long, and, like, it's not necessarily bad, it's exhausting to read because it just never ends, and, like, it's always going. And so I think going into it, that was already something that I was like, ugh. Like, it took me forever to get into it at the beginning because, like, the first half of the book, almost nothing happens. On top of that, with it already being long, this book is so depressing. Like, it gets happy at the end, obviously, but for the most part, most of this book is either people are sad and they're grieving Livy's death and Robert's death, or the cohort is under control, and so there's a lot of, like, political aspects of it that are kind of depressing, and everybody is kind of losing hope on that front. And then there's Emma and Julian with the whole curse thing, and they go to Thule, and then that's depressing. And then they come back, and, like, it's just bad, and everything's bad, and, like, the end of the book is happy, but I feel like for the most part, like, 75% of the book is just really upsettingly hopeless. And it's getting harder for me to read books like that because our world is becoming hopeless in many ways. And I just don't want to deal with it in a fictional fantasy book. However, on the flip side of that, I will say I did appreciate a lot of it because the whole time I was reading it, like, this book truly mirrors what is happening in our government today. It felt like Trump's America in Idris, and I was like, well, I kind of hate that, but, like, I guess you're using your platform for something. And it's kind of weird, too, because if you think about it, like, the Shadowhunters going through this is kind of mirroring, like, what's happening in the mundane world at the time, and, like, I kind of hate it, but also, like, it's kind of cool. I think there were a lot of really great quotes that Cassie put in, and just, like, commentary in general about, like, how to deal with the situation. And, like, obviously we can't really do a lot about our situation. Like, we can't just, like, start a civil war or something like that. But I think it goes to show that, like, even when you can't control, like, how other people act, like, you still have to be, like, open to discussions, and you have to, like, fight for what you believe in, and, like, fight for the people who deserve better, you know? And so as much as it was depressing, and the whole time I was like, this is literally America right now, it was really great, and I value what she said and how she wrote about it. And I think it's genius, actually, to kind of turn our world problems into something that is also happening on a fantasy level. And she did such a really good job with that even though I'm really upset about it, I'm more upset about it because it's happening in our world than I am about the content of the book. So I appreciate that, but also it just made it kind of hard to read. Those are the main layers going into it. But then on top of all of that, it's also just, like, there's just so much stress. Like, I think basically from, like, the second half of the book is just stress all the time. And there's, like, one happy moment every, like, 100 pages. It's cool. Everything just gets topsy-turvy, and I didn't really know how to deal with it. The way I explained this book to somebody was, I think it's a cross between Avengers Endgame, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and King of Scars. If you haven't read King of Scars, I'm not going to spoil it for you. I will just say the feelings of Queen of Air and Darkness mirror a lot of my feelings about those other things. There's just a lot of stuff that happens that is unnecessary and or ridiculous, and so I can't really wrap my brain around it. But at the same time, it has some of those good elements of Endgame where you're like, wow, look at the payoff. Look at these amazing battle scenes, you know? But like, yeah, it was something. There was something. So anyways, talking about freaking Thule, it's a combination of Thule and also Sebastian fucking Morgenstern and his goddamn son. I'm sorry. I know many people predicted Sebastian having a son. Like, I think Christine spearheaded that theory a long time ago, and I forgot about it. But I was not prepared to read about it. Like, literally, I remember the night that I was reading, and they were like, yeah, Sebastian has a son. I was like, I'm sorry, what? And so first you get hit with that information, and then, like, I don't know, 50 to 100 pages later, all of a sudden we're in Thule, which is, like, this parallel alternate world where, like, the timeline split at a certain point, and Clary is dead, and Jace is still evil Jace, and Sebastian is, like, 28, and he has a kid, and, like, he calls his kid son, and the kid, like, my brain was kind of imploding at that point, and I couldn't handle it, but it was like, I'm sorry, what? You brought back Sebastian for, like, a couple scenes, and I had to read about it. Like, it was just a lot. I hated it. It also kind of reminded me of Stitch in Time by Kim Possible. From Kim Possible, the movie, where, like, everybody grows up without Kim and Ron, and they're like, I don't know, I just became a badass. Like, the world needed it, and I became one. I'm just, like, that's Livy. Because in this parallel world, Livy isn't dead. She's, like, 17, and she's like, I don't know, I just shoot guns now. Like, whatever, I drink, it's fine. It was weird. Like, here's the thing about parallel worlds. If they're done correctly, they can be really fun. And on top of that, they can be exciting. And, like, it was cool, I guess, to see, like, this alternate world Sebastian still, like, be an evil. But it was also just, like, really unnecessary. Like, I know why we had to go to Thule. There are a lot of reasons for it, specifically the Mortal Sword. But, like, was it worth it? It kind of reminded me of the end, like, the middle of City of Heavenly Fire where they go to that demon realm, and it's like, was it? I thought it was very weird, and so automatically at that point I was like, this is not what I want. Like, I don't think we like this at all. And so then we, like, get back to the Institute, and, like, everything is kind of going back to normal. But then we have the weird Parabatai curse that, like, I just don't know what to do with it. Like, we suffer through almost three books of Emma and Julian being so obsessively in love with each other that they're like, well, this is it, we're gonna die, we love each other too much, like, we can't do this anymore. And it turns out all that they had to do was become giant angels and have people say that they love them, and, like, it was fine. Was it a bit of a cop-out? Possibly. I kind of wish that they had been chaotic and, like, broken all the Parabatai bonds just so that we could, like, see that hell break loose, but, like, you know, I guess it's for the best. I do like that Alec and Jace are still Parabatai, so. It was just, like, a lot, and it was really weird. Oh my god, the scene where Emma got stabbed twice. I was at the gym, and I was on the treadmill, and, like, I was texting my friend Ethan, who, like, hated the book. He gave it 1 star, but he was the only person I could really text about it, and I couldn't curse out loud because I was at the gym running, and so I was like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I was so stressed out, and I texted him like 20 times being like, she can't be dead, she's not dying, she can't, this can't happen, like, she would never kill Emma has to live, Emma, and, like, I didn't realize how much I cared about Emma Carstairs until that moment, but I don't know. And then the part that really got me, I ended up spoiling myself on the last page before I finished because I was just curious, and the last chapter is the epilogue, and it's basically the Seelie Queen just, like, living her dreams, I guess. And eventually what happens is we find out that evil Jace from Thule has come back with Ash, who is the Seelie Queen's son. And now evil Jace wants Clary. And it's kind of interesting because it's like, I guess these old characters are still going to be super relevant in the next series, but also it's like, I'm exhausted. Like, did we not already do this? I don't want an evil Jace. I really don't. We already did that. I already suffered through City of Lost Souls. I don't need to do this again. So I'm not really sure what that means. I don't know how he got back from Thule. At this point, it's so crazy that I'm like, whatever, it's fine. Cassie Clare will do something cool, I guess. So I don't really know. I don't know how I feel. It's like, it's just so up and down with her. But, like, I enjoyed it so much that I think that's why I gave it a higher rating. I do think it is a little bit ridiculous. And like I said, it reminds me a lot of King of Scars, especially the parts of King of Scars that I didn't like. But I think this book actually was really, like, there were a lot of parts of it that were done well. Specifically, like, the representation and diversity and stuff, and, like, the characters. And Cassie has always been really great about characters and world building. So, like, I can forgive her for some really strange plots, especially because it's basically like City of Heavenly Fire in some ways. But okay, well, I guess this can lead into like a final little section of what is coming next, because we have, like, part of what she did in the last 100 pages of this book is she set a lot of traps and seeds and things that are going to grow into wonderful, wonderful, terrible things in the next series. And like, I know we're getting the last hours next, possibly. And so that one focuses, it takes place in like the early 1900s. It's after the Infernal Devices, and so it doesn't really have to do with all of these characters, but getting the backstory on like Tessa and brother Zachariah Jem, I think he's still a brother at that point, and Will Herondale, the love of my life, and like all of their children will probably play a lot into Kit's storyline. So like, I'm curious about that, but specifically I think I read somewhere that like the next / last Shadowhunter Chronicles series, if I remember correctly, is going to take place after this series of Queen of Air and Darkness in the future sometime. I don't know how far. I thought I read that the main characters are Ty and Kit. So, like, I hope that's true. But there's just, like, so many things. Because we have Evil Jace is now looking for Clary. And the Seelie Queen is, like, doing who knows what. Kieran is king of the Unseelie Court, but he's also, like, trying to live with Mark and Christina in this secret cottage. Alec is now the consul, so he's working on, like, stuff. And then Mark and Christina are doing Downworlder Alliance things. Kit is now living with Tessa and Jem, and Tessa is pregnant, and so that's happening, and Ty is going to the Scholomance. Drew might end up going to the Shadowhunter Academy at some point. Tavi is now going to be, like, a full-grown person soon. He's, like, 7 now, but he'll be older by the time this next series starts, probably. Clary and Jace are probably going to get engaged at some point. Magnus and Alec are now married, so that's cool. Emma and Julian went away on like a year-long like traveling venture thing. I don't know. So there's Aline and Helen want to have a kid. I forgot about that. That's fun. I don't know. There's just so many things that it's like, I'm really just going to be stressed out until this next series starts up. So it's cool. It's great. Life is good. It's like, here's the thing. Cassandra Clare books are absolutely ridiculous, and in some ways they're excessive, and like, we don't need to have all of them. But it's kind of like the Marvel universe in some ways, I think, because it's been building for so long, and like, there's just so many characters, and seeing them all interact is so cool. And like, Cassandra Clare does an incredible job of weaving these stories, and like, she has created such a huge world. Like, I think she might be one of the best fantasy writers of our time, just because she has created a world that is so wide. And like, Leigh Bardugo does this too, but Cassie has been doing it for longer, and she has more books in her world, and it's just so massive at this point that like, I want to know more, because I think she has more, and I'm curious, and it's fun, and like, she's hilarious, and like, all of her characters are well developed, and they're diverse, and like I get why people hate on Cassandra Clare, but also it's like, let the people have fun, because this is just like, it's fun. And, like, it makes me feel like I'm young again. And I'm having a blast. And, like, I don't care if you hated this book or you loved it. It was what it was, but I enjoyed it deeply. And I'm just happy that Magnus and Alec are finally married and living their best life. And that's all I can ask for, really. I would love to hear your thoughts, because I've heard mixed reviews about it, and I just don't know where everybody stands. And also, I was late on the uptake. So, if you have any thoughts, anything you want to talk about, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear any of your thoughts or theories or anything. And yes, thank you again for watching, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye!